Welcome to the Zayari Wellness Podcast, where we learn about other people's journeys. Regardless of age, race, religion, or status, we're all just human and have one thing in common: the ups and downs of life. Join me in welcoming our special guest, Brian, as we explore being single and satisfied.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brian. Some people know me as Humble Absence. And I chose to take this meeting today because there's a certain stigma around being single, and, single guys, single women, things of that nature. And I'm just here to clear up some of those things and then also just give people a little bit about me, my background, and what helped me out through life. So, originally, I'm from Louisiana, born and raised in Louisiana. Moved to Georgia senior year and then joined the military and to Texas. And then after that, I've been around the world for a little bit.
Man, you
And
just been all over the place, huh?
yeah, yeah, I bounced around a little bit. Yeah. So, but I saw a lot, learned a lot, been through some things, and accomplished some things. And yeah, it's okay to be single to do those things. But was I single the entire time doing those things? No. No, no, no,
Right.
no. That's what it comes in. Yeah. So that's just a little bit
Yeah.
about
So you've been around the world during the military. You're born in the U.S., so you've been exposed to a lot of different cultures, a lot of different environments. I'm assuming a lot of different types of people. And so, when you began your dating world or your dating life, I always tell everybody, like, a common denominator in all your relationships is you, right? And
yeah.
so, at what point did you decide, like, okay, I need to be single? And, like, why did you decide to be single?
Ooh. Uh, um, I single a few times. It's just I think what ended up happening was life, and then I want to say I had my first child, my first daughter at 21, I think,
Mm,
and I was married at the time. So her mom was married first, military, and had a baby.
mm,
How the military goes, and but that
yeah.
ended. I'm
Well,
talking
wait,
like,
for those who don't know, hold on. For those
oh,
who don't know how the military goes, I'm
uh,
also prior military. And so the first thing people do when they join the military and they meet somebody they love or they like or strongly like, they get
uh,
married. Because if you
uh,
don't get married, you don't get the benefits, you move away, your relationship at stake. So I think people are, in a way, influenced to get married in the military for whatever reason.
when you
which,
talking
which we're not
18,
going to label your first relationship being peer pressured to being married, but there are very real pressures that
yep,
soldiers experience to get married. Am I
sure.
mistaken?
You're not, I experienced it. Like I said, I joined at 17, right out of high school. And yeah, I want to say I met, mother of my first daughter at 18 in Georgia. Got married, got the 4 kids, and then I was in career and all those things, and came back, pregnancy. And like I said, I think going through those things young, like I said, the military kind of put us on a fast track. And
Yes.
I was 11 Bravo infantry when I was in. So we were kind of doing things a little faster than normal. And,
Yeah.
but, that relationship ended very fast. And
Hmm.
both were single very fast. And, during that time, I chose to turn up. I wouldn't
Wait. For those who are not exposed to that type of verbiage, can you tell them what turn up means? Because some people are like, what does that mean?
like I said, at 22 years old, still in the military, brand new challenger, living by myself. I mean, on the side, I'm doing like club promotion, party promotions, and stuff like that. And you just couldn't tell me to sit down, back then. You couldn't tell me to
Right.
stop.
So
Couldn't,
turning up was living your best life,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
As public
yeah,
knows it. Just living for
yeah.
yourself, not a care, worry, anything. You just doing your thing. I'm assuming there were like love interests here and there. You like kind of like hurt some people along the way.
Yeah, I definitely. It's cheap. Well, I'm on the way for sure. Love is probably not the case though. I think
Hmm.
after my after my first divorce and being away from my daughter, I wasn't really looking for love. I wasn't really looking for nothing. Um,
Hmm.
I would tell the women I was talking to right off the bat. I'm not one of those guys that
Mm.
what's the term that they use when they sauce these women up and lie to them a little bit. And I don't do that. I tell them straight out the
Oh,
gate, hey,
oh, the like the empty words, the
oh
sweet nothings. Is that
yes,
what you're talking about?
yes, no, yeah. I a little bit about my childhood. So my mom and my dad, they still talk to each other every day to this day, but they separated when I was 2 years old. So I mean, they never
Oh
lived together.
wow.
Yeah, I was raised by a single mom whole life. But
Hmm.
my dad, he's always been there, kind of like weekends and stuff like that. But he always had a lot of women. I always had a lot of women from since I've known him, right? And recently, I want to say maybe over the past 5 years, he's just gotten to a point to where he's, settling down and wanting to settle down. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I've always
Okay.
tried to, and I try to make it a mission not to do that. You know what I'm saying? So, I just
You know
want
what's
to
interesting, right? Like in the world of therapy, right? Let me just like reel it back a little bit.
say, okay, okay.
We say we don't want to do certain things and we end up doing the very same thing our parents did, and it's crazy how that works. It's learned behavior. I'm not trying to get nerdy here, right? But it is a
Mhm.
very real thing that we do exactly what it is that our parents did or didn't do, because there are so many things I can tell you that, like, perhaps things that I didn't like that my mom did, right? And I love her. Like, I understand her a little bit better now that I'm a mom, and I understand like the world of therapy and how trauma works and things of that nature. So I can have empathy and compassion for her. But there's something I'm never gonna do that. And I find myself with my kids or with my husband doing things, and I'm like, hold on, wait. And my husband would point it out, like, you're doing the thing. And I'm like, no, dang it, yes, I am. Okay, let me. And so it's very intentional, right? Like, you talk about singleness and you talk about not bringing people into your chaos, right? That you've kind of like, oh, I was living my own life. And in the way, I don't care what anybody says.
What do you
Whenever
mean?
you're involved with somebody intimately in any type of way, there is a connection made,
For sure,
right?
for
There
sure.
is.
Yeah,
And people like to say in our culture, no strings attached, no whatever. But there is, in a
every,
way,
every time.
every single. Yes, because there's something that like draws you to this person. There was something, whether it was a one night stand, they were fine, they were charismatic, something drew you to the person, right?
Yeah.
Something. Or you just didn't care. Like, some people's situations are different. So they're like, you know what, I'm numb, I don't care, right? But I just find that very interesting. And so when you talk about your father, like, had this pattern, right, of like women. So what made you stop the cycle? Like, what made you stop the pattern?
Um,
Have you stopped the pattern? Right? Like, that is the golden question.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I stopped it around the time I had my first daughter. I had my first daughter, and I want to say I was 22, maybe at 23, I had a motorcycle accident. I think like
Hmm.
it was like life or death. You know what I'm saying? It's me and one of my brothers, and accident, flipped off the bike, fractured my right finger. I had to learn how to walk all over again. Uh,
Wow.
8 months, 2 year recovery, and I was on my last year getting out of the military too. So it was tough. It was tough, and during that time, I was thinking about everything. I'm laid up in the bed, can't move. I got called for help. I need help with showers, and luckily I had friends and people to be there to help stuff like that. But during that time, um, my daughter started walking when I couldn't walk. So the
Mm,
bond, and then I
yeah.
had a conversation with my dad. I was like, it's probably the most realest conversation I've ever had with him, simply because when we were kids, we never connected, we never really, like I said, once in a blue moon type of dad. But as we got older, I was letting him know, like, hey, I have a daughter now, and if you're going to be the granddad, I don't want her having, 18 different grandmas, or like, you know, she,
Rightfully so. I agree. Okay.
and yeah,
Grandpa, is that Sarah or is that Beatrice today? Like who
I just told him, I said, hey man, I love you to do it, but I don't want them seeing some of the things that I saw when I grew up. And we got a real heart to heart. And then after that, um, I calmed down, especially after the accident. I calmed down. And my oldest daughter, she lives in Georgia, so I was always back and forth from Tulane and Columbus, like every month,
Mhm.
uh, crutches and everything, and that taught me a lot. And then when my daughter started being able to ask me certain questions, I think that
Mhm.
she started to pay attention to like if I would date, who I would date. And then, eventually like it got serious with one chick I was dating and I introduced her to her and, her mom met her and I tried to do it the proper way. And it didn't work out. It didn't work out and it bothered me for a while because, I didn't want her to meet, so many different women. But and it wasn't like she met a lot of women. She met her one time, but I invested a lot into that situation.
Mhm.
So that
Mhm.
that bothered me a lot. But after that, um, I was single. I was single, and I did my own thing, stacked my money up, kept taking those trips back and forth as much as I could, FaceTiming every day as much as I could, and I finally started going to therapy after that.
Been a therapy?
Yeah,
What? The
yeah,
man goes to therapy out of your own will. Hold on. Out of your own will?
yeah, I really did. It's
Hold on. That
crazy.
deserves a clap. Hold on. Hold on. there is, okay, I will say there is a big stigma, right, with men in therapy. And so I like that you're like, hey, I did it out of my own will. What led you to make that decision and say, I need to heal?
I'm trying to remember right now on the spot, but if I'm not mistaken, it was a conversation I had with my bro one day. His name's Darnell. He's in the area, I believe. And I mean, we both got out the military around the same time. He's a few years older than me. And but we just started doing businesses, just starting things on our own, figuring out life on our own. Me and him ground up. But the thing about him is he actually had both of his parents, mom and dad, whole life. So I was able to learn a lot from his parents.
Mm-hmm.
What I realized was in the beginning, I would always like compare, like, bro, like you got this and I don't have this, so we're not on the same page right now. Like, so just relax. And eventually he was just like, hey, man, you need to go to therapy. And I was like, I was looking at him, like, we almost had a fight. You know what I'm saying?
Hold on. Are you trying to say there's something wrong with me? What are you trying to say?
We
Well, that's a
literally,
common misconception, right? Like that is like, oh, you need why people feel anyways, we're not gonna go into that. But just because somebody says you need therapy doesn't mean sometimes people say that because it's like, hey, you're hurt and I can see how it affects you. And maybe you need to work through this. And I'm assuming that was his stance.
yeah, in a way, yeah. We both kind of actually was going through our own things at the same time, but it was kind of like one of those things we had to go. It was like, what, maybe we should, both go to therapy. And he probably went before me, but nevertheless, I still made it. And my therapist, man, she was hard. She wasn't hard. I mean, it was like you just said. She didn't hold anything back. Um,
She was truthful. There's different types of therapists. For those who don't know, it's like a car. You got to test it, and all of them aren't to your liking, right? And I tell some people, like for me, I'm a very deep rooted therapist. Like we gonna get in the weeds and we're gonna work on the deep stuff, right? All in its time, but I'm also very honest and very real. So if you're doing something that's destructive to yourself, and be like, hey, let's look at that. What do you mean? But, and I can say there's a way to do it to where it's not offensive, right?
Right,
And you can grow and be able to see that is a pattern. I can see how that affects me. And so
right.
I would like to just one give you your kudos, because as a man to say, and I need help, right? There is a stigma associated with men that you need to be tough. A black man in America, on
Yeah.
top of that, right? That you're told all the time there's something wrong with you. I'm assuming, right? Like there is just this stigma about being a man and a black man in America that you're weak if you go seek help. And can you touch a little bit about on those on that topic for a second for our audience?
You know, and then that's part of the maybe I would say 80% of the reason why I built my personal brand is to literally let other young men know that you're not weak and you are,
Mhm.
and you are fucked up too. You know, you do need help, whether you need to go to a therapist or whether it's you go talk to your coach or you hire a trainer. You know, so many
A
things that
mentor, something,
something,
a
yeah,
mentor. It doesn't have to be a therapist for those, it doesn't have to be a therapist.
and that's the whole point. And you know, it's crazy. Sometimes you know your barber could be my barber. I had a barber in Copper's Cove. It's been my barber for since I was 20 years old.
Mhm.
So I mean, we talk about everything, and
I hear that's a different type of bond in the men world, especially black men. Your barber is like you don't trust nobody else with your hair, with your head. You don't trust like that is like a deep, intimate connection.
I mean,
If
I think about it, you know.
you go to another barber, it's like, are you cheating on me? Like this a whole nother level of disrespect for men and their barbers, huh?
That's permission.
Like, bro, is it okay? I love it. And so basically what I'm hearing from you is that it took an act of God. You got into a car in a motorcycle accident for you to sit down and slow down and evaluate. That's kind of tough.
Yeah, you know, I don't. I would honestly say because I'm still young. I'm just turned 28 in July, and
Hmm.
I learned something when I was younger. It was like you can be smart and learn from your elders, their mistakes, and be wise. Don't try to make them, or think you can go ahead and go get first to a big wall and you can knock it all down by yourself. You keep trying, and that's what I was. That was my mentality.
Guessing you were option two. You're like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because to be honest with you, I guess I'll give you a little bit more of my background as to why I had that mindset at first. So I'm the oldest brother out of maybe 8 siblings, and
Oh, okay. You were
my mom,
parentified a lot, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You were the
yeah,
man of the house. You had
yeah.
to take care of your siblings. So it's like I'm making my own choices anyways. Like what people got to tell me, you know?
So it's like I had a childhood, but I wouldn't say honestly I love my childhood and I love how I was raised. Honestly, even though single mom, she did everything for us. But at the same time, if I didn't have to be a man at such a young age, then maybe, how I behaved before wouldn't have. Like I said, it's like I had no guidance. I had no, it's
Absolutely.
like a dog off the leash. You know what I'm saying? I was like, if you said something,
You were just running these streets like and just living your best life. But I would
yeah,
like to say that I know you said something very important. You said that I love my childhood and it had a negative impact in a way, right? Like some people think that it has to be one or the other, but I like to, point out that you can enjoy something and something still impact you or hurt you negatively, right?
yeah,
And I think that so as you went fast forward to your time of like singleness, tell me something about like how are ways that you kind of like viewed singleness instead of something that, oh, I'm alone or I don't want to be with people or nobody wants to be with me. But like, how did you take advantage of this time of your life and how did your perception change about singleness? Because right now it's a choice for you.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely was. I think what ended up happening was maybe it was I think a death in the family or something like that, and they needed money to pay for like the casket or the funeral or something like that. And where we come from in Louisiana, I grew up off the land. People, don't really have it like that. And I had something I could help with, but not all of it. But it bothered me because I just wanted to be like, here. What I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
should, and what ended up happening was I said, where I'm single, I got no distractions. Baby girl taken care of. I made sure my mom was okay. My siblings were all checked on. Okay. And that's the thing about me. I like to put other people first. And sometimes that's a bad and a good thing, but I always come out on top, so I keep doing it. But when I was in that moment, I was like, most people do all the negative things when they're single to cover up the work that just has to be done. And I just started
Mm-hmm.
running from work, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this while I'm single because I know I want a family again. Like I know I want to, be in a relationship one day. So I, need to be ready at all times. And honestly, how I started looking at single life, well, it was depressing at first. Like when you're in their house or room by yourself or
Mm-hmm.
first month,
You're alone with your thoughts and all of the skeletons in your closet. That is uncomfortable, I will say that.
you gotta sit there and you gotta think about all the things that you've done and didn't do. And I would say probably like after a month of like not doing anything, Netflix and chilling. I mean, hell, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, anything to distract me from work, anything to distract me from building myself up. I want to say my mom had called me one day and she said, I had you on my mind. I just want to pray for you. She prayed for me. I grew up in the church, in the Baptist church, when I was a young kid. And I kind of got away from playing, after the military, having a kid, accident. I had to sit down. I had to sit down. And I had to get back to where I was taught. And I started praying, started finding peace, started building my confidence up, started getting back in the gym every day. I used to go to the gym very, very hard, and I had the accident, and mentally, it took me back a
Yeah.
little bit. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but once I started praying, once I started like eating my fruits and going to the gym, and then I started pulling people to the gym with me, and then I started personal training after that. So now I'm making money. I started
Mm-hmm.
posting on social media, so now I'm getting cloud right, and I went from like during that time being single, 7K followers to 15K followers, and saving up some more money now and buying more cars and getting more gifts and stuff like that. So I think
So hold on, let's pause there. So I want to point out a few things. You went from living your best life before to actually living your
with no,
best life,
I,
right? Right. I want to point that out because you said, okay, you said I did anything to distract me from being by myself with your thoughts, which included smoking, drinking, Netflix and chilling. For those who don't know, Netflix ain't chilling is not about Netflix and chilling. It's about one night stands and having little flings here and there with people. I'm not judging, right? Like we
I,
all have been through it. We've been through the mud. We've been, there, and some of us are still there. But for those who are still there, I will say evaluate why you can't be by yourself with your thoughts.
yes, yes, yes.
It's uncomfortable. If you don't like being by yourself with your thoughts, that that may be an indicator. Hey, like I need to work on myself. You know, I just love like how there's like a clear contrast in your life with like I thought I was living my best life. That wasn't it. And it's funny. I'm a point something for those who don't know. I'm married, right? But I've also been divorced, and I've also went through a single period, and I also went through my time where I was like, screw it, right? Like I'm just gonna be with whoever I want to be with. I don't care what it. I don't care, right? But let's talk about that culture of what we promote on the media about what it looks like to live your best life. I went out with my friend the other day,
Okay.
and of course, I asked my husband for permission because we're in a relationship. And I say, babe, you okay with me going to the bar with my friend? He's like, yeah, absolutely. Have fun. He's not very controlling at all. And I love that I have that freedom in my relationship. We went to the bar. went and got some drinks, and I was looking around, and you see people that are living their best life, and they're drinking, and they look, but they look sad. And I never saw it in that light before. You look around, and it's like, people have a glow about them when they're genuinely happy, right? Like, that's just, I don't know. I sense vibes, or whatever you want to call it, right? But they look so sad. And I was looking at my friend, and I was like, dang, girl, like, we used to think this was it. And what people don't understand is that, like, you can live a full life and a whole satisfying life without that type of life, living your best life and going out and, like, losing yourself, in the things that distract you from working on yourself, from living a truly authentic life full of peace, right?
Yeah.
Full of, I don't know, like, just peace. Like, there's no other way to say it. Like, I can be single and be at peace, right?
Yes.
Like,
I mean, I'm at peace right now. I'm like I said, I'm just with the
can you explain to our audience what it means to be single but not lonely? Because people sometimes equate, like, single to loneliness.
okay. I tell you what helped me. What my therapist told me. She asked me, if you can go in the mirror and look at yourself for 2 to 3 minutes straight, like, don't look away. If you can't stare at yourself and look at yourself and smile and think happy thoughts for a minute to 2 minutes straight, she was like, you need work to do. You need to figure out how to fill your cup,
Mm,
things for yourself. And that's what I started doing. I started picking up hobbies besides going to the gym. But I started meeting friends, people that were single, but their goals were aligned with my goals. And some of my
yep.
friends are actually married. Most of my friends are actually married. That's actually probably the best way to set yourself up if you are single and you plan on
Yes.
being in a relationship. Then hang around
Yes.
great people, um, and that's how I've been moving since I've been single. I try to keep my energy good, the people around me good, and I stick to my routine. It doesn't
Yeah.
get much harder.
Routine. Yes, routine and support system. I can't say that is the most important thing. I think when I went through my season of singleness too, is that, like, okay, yes, being alone kind of sucks sometimes, but then I really enjoyed being by myself. Like, when you can enjoy your own company, that's how you know that you're like, okay, I've made the best of this season, because I can go out and have dinner by myself and enjoy the dinner, right? Like, I don't need somebody else there with me to enjoy that time. And then being around other people, like you said, that promote what you're doing, that will help. Like you're saying, I want to be married one day. You gonna take advice about marriage from a single person, or are you gonna take advice about marriage from people that are married and satisfied? Right?
Yeah,
Let's talk about that, because all these posts on social media talking about types of men not to date or types of women not to date. And I can guarantee you that the people promoting that are single.
for sure, every time, every single time, every time, yeah, for sure.
And it's funny because, to me, as a therapist, I read some of those things and I'm like, I roll my eyes, because I'm just like, y'all don't even know that y'all are looking for God Himself to come down and try to date you, because we are living in a world. And if God Himself came down and tried to date you, you still say there's something wrong with Him.
I have
Still,
something.
right? Because I'm like, okay, just because someone has a negative trait or maybe some other type of baggage does not make them a negative or bad person. Because regardless, we love to point out other people's flaws, but I'm like, okay, but can you tell me what's wrong with you?
Huh. That's hard for people to do.
Right. Right. So it's like, don't date this person because they're this. And I'm like, one of them I thought was funny was like, oh, don't date them if they've been divorced. Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah,
Wait.
I was gonna mention something too because you asked me about like being single, but one thing about it is it's a choice. Like if you want to choose to like stay single, and if you want to choose to be ready or get ready to be in that next relationship or whatever the case may be. I believe that let's just say you're single guy or a single woman, and you know exactly what you want out of another person. You know exactly what you would, I guess, do for them. You know exactly what you would be ready to, entail in that relationship. But I think what people forget is themselves. They forget, like, okay, like if I decide to pursue this person, am I whole enough to like be in that thing and still like
Yep.
be here myself? And
Exactly.
that's just
Exactly.
when you're single, you can't get that certain type of peace back. Like you said, I go to the movies in Bangkok by myself, or like when I go on boat rides for real, I go on boat rides down the river by myself. Like I'll book a nice room and just to have it to read my books and do my schoolwork in for the weekend
And
by
you enjoy
myself.
it. And you
Yes,
enjoy it, right?
yes,
I love how
yes.
you pointed that out because it's like, okay, so check this out. Like, do you know that before there is a we, there's a real me? Like, there was a me before a we. That's what people don't understand. A lot of people want the we without working on the me, right? And so when you're in a relationship, and I love couples therapy because this comes up a lot. I do this for them. 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 And then I ask them, where's you in that? And they kind of take a step back. And like, you do know that in order for a relationship to flourish, you need to take care of you. And I'm not promoting selfishness. That's not what I'm talking about. But you have very real basic needs and wants as a person. And I think a lot of people jump into a relationship not even knowing what those basic needs and wants are, looking for somebody to fill them. But if I cannot define the cup and what it looks like, what it takes to fill my cup, nothing will ever be good enough to fill my cup. And so
Right.
you're constantly changing relationships and looking for different relationships, but the common denominator is you, right?
Every
Like
time.
every time, right? And so when my couples, it's so funny because I'm like, I got divorced. I don't believe in divorce. Like, I don't think about divorce, but I got divorced because I can't move on somebody else's behalf, right? It wasn't a healthy relationship. There was abuse there. And I tried. Like, for a whole year, I gave this person space and time to work it out and think about it and do whatever. Like, I uprooted my life, and I gave this person the space and the time that they needed. And that's when I learned. It was through my divorce that I learned where was me?
No. So I want to know,
Because
like,
where there isn't you,
when you were
the
going through
relationship
your
won't
divorce,
work. Mm-hmm.
so when you were going through your divorce, right? When was
Mm-hmm.
that time or that period that you had? Like, how did that conversation go? With your ex husband when when you had to let him know, like, hey, it's not working out, whatever the case may be. But I hopefully still want the best for you. But like, how did that play out? That first like 2 weeks when you first realized, like, okay, like this is it, and we have to take those when you ended something and you have to go through that period of planning out your next few moves, and you're back and forth and like still mad at him about some stuff from the last month, but that's
There's
like
very
that.
real mixed feelings with the divorce. Okay. I'm gonna be vulnerable and I'm gonna be open. I was very, very needy and anxious in my first relationship. And that came from like growing up and not having real emotional like needs met, and like being, I guess, I don't know, like I'm a middle child. All the stigmas of a middle child, that was me, right? And so that means we don't get a lot of attention, and I'm the only girl, so I'm a cry baby, and like mom did not know how to manage or handle my emotions, so it was like right. So the message I received growing up was, you're not good enough, you're not lovable, right? Those are very real, and I can say that and be healed, and that's okay, right? But in my first marriage, it all came out because I wanted your love at all times. And I needed you to be happy. And I
Yeah.
needed you to feel like I was something, right? And so that puts a lot of pressure on that other person too, because it doesn't give them room to breathe. It doesn't give them room to flourish, right? And it's a codependency, and it's not healthy. And
I,
I can look back and realize that and say, ooh, ugh, right? Like, look up attachment styles. I was that anxious attachment style, right? And you complete me, and it's not like a healthy relationship is should be. You're an addition to me, not you complete me. And so as I was going through my divorce, I didn't realize all these things until I was just like, and he did this, and he did that, and he did this, and he did that, and had to take a step back. And there was one time, like yourself, like I don't promote any type of religion, but I do pray, and I believe in God. And one time it was like, and what about you? What did you do wrong? And I was like, hold on, this man abused me. What you mean that what I do wrong? Like I went through some physical and emotional abuse. What do you mean? What did I do wrong? And then I had to take a step back and see, okay, I allowed this person to treat me this way because I had a real need for love. I had a real need for a hole in my heart that my parent perhaps didn't know how to fill, right? And my parents were divorced growing up, so daddy wasn't physically with me. My dad was in Puerto Rico, and I have a very good relationship with my dad. Don't get me wrong, I'm daddy's girl all day, every day. We talk about stuff, but there's a very big wound that you have when your parent, even at a distance, so you have that emotional, but that physical presence, right, means a lot.
for
And
sure. Yeah.
so that creates a wound. And so you look in a relationship, what people don't realize is that you're looking for these wounds and these holes to be filled. And it's like you're carrying all this weight and baggage and you're giving it to your partner. Please carry this for me. And they're doing the same. And we wonder why it doesn't work because we're both giving each other the wounds that weren't meant to be healed by any one person, right? And so I went through that period.
Yeah.
Correct. I went through that period and I looked and I was like, okay, I told myself, I'm going to give him a year. I'm going to give him a year. The door's going to be open. We weren't together. He was in Houston. I was in Florida. And then I was working on myself, going through that, like, damn, like I'm alone, like waking up and that person is not next to you is a very tough, thing to experience. Especially when you have that neediness, like that whole, like, I need you to feel some type of way about myself. And I had to look at myself in the mirror. Like what I love what your therapist said. Because it wasn't until that one day I looked at myself in the mirror and I just started bawling. And I was like, oh my gosh, this was like the stamp, you're not lovable. And I had to sit with that. And I had to like,
Yeah.
damn, do I believe I'm not lovable? And you ask any of my friends that I had growing up that, no, Joe is really cool. She's so loving and she's like, whatever. I would never. I was depressed. I was really depressed. I was that kid. I tried to take my life twice. Like growing up, like a lot of people would never know that. They would never know that about me because on the outside, I'm, hey guys, very bubbly, whatever, right? Because I needed that approval from others. And I did tell my ex-husband at that time, like, I learned to love him. I learned to love him at his worst. I didn't know how to love him when he was present, but I learned to love him when he wasn't there. And that's crazy. I learned that he also had his experiences that caused that
Yeah.
craziness. I'm not justifying the abuse, but I
Yeah.
learned your needs weren't met either. You didn't know how to healthily get that out. You didn't know how to do all these things. I had to learn to love him at his worst. And I learned to love me. And so throughout my singleness period, and I learned how to let go of him. And I even moved to Texas, let go of my life in Florida because I said, if I'm about making my marriage work, I'm going to have to do it 100%. And I gave him the opportunity. I moved to Texas, but I was like, I'm not moving to where you are. That's my boundary because it's not healthy. And there's abuse there, right? I had to learn boundaries. And I'm like, I'm here. Oh, the door is open. And he never came. And this is why I said, I can't move on somebody else's behalf. I have to respect that. But if he would have came, and my husband knows this, we'll tell, we're very honest and real about our past and everything. And I'm like, if he would have came, I would have tried to make it work. Yes,
Huh.
with a man that abused me. Yes, with a man, because if he came to me saying, I can work on myself and I can work on my flaws, and me setting up the appropriate boundaries and accountability in place, we can make it work.
Yeah,
But he
yeah.
wasn't there. So
You
I had to
know,
let that go.
the time. They say timing is perfect, but they say that it's how it's supposed to be. So I believe in
Yep.
timing. I do believe in timing, and
But if it wasn't for that, right? Like I wouldn't be the woman I am today. That situation, this is why I say there's good and bad in situations, and we have to see both sides. Like I would not be who I am today. I wouldn't be the wife I am to my husband because when we get into difficult stuff, and yes, we fight, yes, it's not perfect. I look back and I said, if I could do it for a man who didn't care about me, if I can
right.
give this other man a whole year, you know what I'm saying? I can do it for a man who'd be willing to risk his life for me,
So,
even though I'm not happy, even though I hate you right now, even though I want to choke you.
right.
But singleness taught me that. Singleness taught me how to love myself, right? And so I think that your journey is very similar. That you're like, no, I'm learning how to be single and happy so that I can be healthy and ready for another relationship if that's what you want to do, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I sympathize with you actually because I think to be a woman and then go through abuse, whether it was physical or mental or whatever, but to do the inner work, put it in your heart that you will be forgiving and understanding no matter what the outcome is, and then pick up and move. Like those are what I call adult decisions. And when you make those type of decisions, meaning you don't know what's on the other side of them, but it still work out, the best way for you.
Mm-hmm. I
Right.
had to
That's
choose not to see myself as a victim, and that was hard
exactly,
because I was a
exactly.
victim. There's a very the reality was that I was right,
Yeah.
but I had to
Yes.
let go of that. I couldn't make that my identity.
And so like, and we were speaking earlier, you asked me about the post I made. That is like one of the
That's what I
reasons.
was. I was gonna bring that up next. But hold on, let's reel the audience back so they understand about your post. Like you made the post. Can you read the post for the audience?
Honestly,
Oh,
if I can be honest, I didn't think that the post would get those type of reactions. In my mind, I don't know what I was thinking in my mind, but let me read it to you. Okay. Advice for men 2023 and beyond. Get you a woman who cares more about you than anything. Most women with leverage are horrible people. Privilege is invisible to those that have it. Men are already operating from a deficit because we rarely get treated well. And that was coming from, especially from me, like a black man standpoint. And but most people didn't really take that. And
perspective is important.
yes. And so also, I go, for example, women are used to guys simping over them, but guys aren't. This is why chivalry is dead because women get everything so easily. They become numb to it. If you give a guy half of that simp treatment, he's head over heels for you. Even in male-dominated industries, they're promoting women at higher rates than ever, and I actually love it. But to the women who make good money and they use it as leverage, they become more masculine than the CEO. If that's how you want to move as a
Keyword:
woman,
use it as leverage. I just want to highlight that.
that's why
You didn't
I,
say women that are CEOs are bad. You said women that use it as leverage. I think people
yes,
don't read things in comments. But go ahead, let's move forward.
that's why I'm like, okay, so comprehension skills, you don't have those. All right. So I tried to break it down more. I said, if that's how you want to move as a woman, that's okay. But you have to be okay with what comes with it. You can't behave like a lady, act like a man, and want woman benefits. Now, women in
What does
these
that
positions,
mean?
okay, okay. So let's just say Steve Harvey dropped a book called,
Not Steve.
he dropped a book called, I think, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, or something like that. And
Yes, yes, yes.
oh god, but basically, some women, not all women, but when they get into these industries that are usually male dominated, at first they don't tend to understand it. Like, they dress like a woman, they dress like a lady, they behave like a lady, and they get all the benefits of what the lady treatment get, the looks and the eyes in the office, and oh, when you open the door for me and stuff like that, right? But those are the women benefits. But when I say act like a man, right, meaning when you meet or when you come across a regular guy or a regular person and you judge them based off the fact that you have this job and they have that job, but you're comparing yourself to the CEO where you want to be as a young woman. And you see this man CEO being very brash, very, let's just call him an asshole, right? So what tends to happen is, women they see that one guy with the status that they want to be in that position, and they try to take some of those traits, they try to take some of those tactics and things that guy portrays to fully fulfill that role. And I've watched this on every level, from being in the military, from working fast food.
Military, 100%. I think of all like female like sergeants that like or XOs, and like for people that don't know, those are people in power.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, so I can say, could you have worded it a little bit different? Probably a little bit.
Well, listen, but that's the whole point though. I'm a man. I am going
Okay.
to speak like a man. I am going
Okay.
to
Okay. What does
like
that mean? Okay, let's help the audience, because I'm big on, we don't have to agree on everything, right? So like we can have different viewpoints, and that's okay. Like it is okay to have different perspectives. It does not mean that I hate you. Hello, people. Like that is a very real thing. So we can respect each other, have different opinions. So what does it mean? Like I wrote this because I'm a man and I'm going to talk like a man. What does that mean?
okay. When I say that, well, for one, I want to finish the last paragraph because
Oh, go ahead.
I have to say this is what's the bulk of the entire message. I said, how about we start talking about how women compliment men and men compliment women? Like salt and pepper, ketchup and mustard, yin and yang, right? Remember, we live in a world where they profit off of division. Okay. Now back to your question when I say I'm speaking from a man's point of view, meaning from a logical standpoint, there were no emotions involved when I wrote this post. There wasn't like something that happened in my life. I got a message from a young lady after I posted this, and it was a black young lady, and she asked me. The first thing she said was, wow, like who hurt you? You know, and it just went on into a paragraph that's something that had nothing to do with
Wait,
what
are you saying women can't be logical? Because I feel like I'm very logical, not emotional. Sometimes depends on the situation.
I would say this. Numbers show, history shows, statistics show that men 9 times out of 10 are the more logical thinkers, and we think with less emotion. I know
Are
me.
you think Okay, okay. And so I would say that like I can agree to an extent that like men are a little more logical than women, because women, I would beg to differ in the sense that I think women are in touch with their emotions and we express them more. So therefore we're viewed as less emotional, whereas men do not express their emotions as much. So they're viewed as more logical. But a lot of the time, like we're all human, regardless of gender, race, religion, whatever. We all have emotions, but
Right,
some people express them more than others. And just because we're more expressive does not mean we're more emotional.
for sure.
I do want to preface with that, because there
No,
is a stigma with women being emotional.
I actually love that because, again, me speaking with you is more of a rarity because of similar background and you into therapy now. Like I was in for you when I was in the military, but my last 2 years I was psychological operations. So
Hmm.
I'm there with you, but I just believe that we are living in a time where, like, actual, I would like to say, masculine men, when they speak and it triggers a woman, it's like the bandwagon starts to happen, and then it's the
Mm.
and the stuff like that. But for me, I'm not about the back and forth. I'm more about the open conversation. Is there some?
Absolutely.
Tell me your feelings, and then I can, tell you some feelings from my side if that's what you want to do. But the bashing is not, and the disrespect is not
Correct.
necessarily.
Correct. Like it's not necessary. And I do like as a woman, I can agree that women be historically, yes, we were treated as like a commodity, like a piece of property or whatever, right? Like, and more recently is when we are getting those rights to speak out or being whatever. So there has been a big power shift, I think, that now, like, if men say anything, it's you're attacking women. I do agree with that. And I agree with the fact that women, okay, if I slap you, let's just use that example, nobody would flinch. Now, if you slap me,
I may go.
everybody's gonna have
I don't
you're
lose.
gonna go to jail. You're gonna go to jail. But and then I also have experience with criminal justice, like right. So my past is a little bit like I've had so many men tell me this woman is hitting me, is doing all these things or whatever, and then they look at the man saying he's the problem because he does it back. And I would say that we need to have a clear understanding that there is not fair, it's not just. Men do go through domestic violence, and women do not know how to respect men. you know I think men deserve respect and women deserve respect, but I think that there's not a balance when it comes to like when women are disrespectful. It's almost applauded nowadays, and I'm not for that either. And it's
And
like, no, we don't have to be disrespectful. At the end of the day, they're a human being and they deserve respect in the way that they get talked to.
yeah,
Because my husband is a very logical person. I want to slap the crap out of him sometimes because I'm like, what do you mean you don't understand? But you can marry the two. I will say that I love, like, instead of attacking my husband, right, and saying, you are emotionally unavailable, you are a terrible person because you can't express empathy. No, I say, I've had to take a step back, right? I have to learn how to meet my own needs. And I have to ask him, okay, let's talk this out. Okay. And I can view the fact that he uses logic as a way to balance my emotion and we can make better decisions together. And I actually am more grateful that I met someone like him because I learned how to take a step back and look at, you know what, I need to balance my emotion with logic.
yeah.
And you're right. But I read that because I'm like, I am a woman CEO. So I do feel some type of way about the post. I don't feel negatively about the post, but I can see your perspective in that, like, I can be a CEO, but not hold that over my husband. My husband's a teacher.
And even to that example right there, like that's great because you got so many women nowadays that are so called on this level. Unless we just talking about a financial level. If you're a CEO and your husband's a teacher, like, but we're talking about impact as well because your husband's probably making a very large impact being a teacher, right? And just like you
Right.
are. So I don't try to equate
Right.
everything to money, and I think that
Yes. Men and your value and women, and I don't think women admit that, your value is tied to money. Your value is tied to what can you offer me. And as a single black man, right, that you can speak to this, and actually, I think when I asked my husband, like, what drew you to me, like, I don't understand. Because my first date with my husband was an interview. It really was. Because I was single and I was working on all the things. I'm like, hey, look, like, what type of job do you have? Like, are you going to be bumming off of me? That was a real concern, right? Or what's your credit score? Can we build together? Right? That's a real thing.
yeah.
Can you take care of yourself? But after our date, I was like, I'm paying for my own dinner. And he was like, he looked at me kind of sideways.
That's I'm literally just about to make a post about that exact same statement that you just made. You know how rare it is for a guy to go out on a first date and a woman actually pays?
Yeah, because in my head, I'm like, you don't owe me anything. Like, we're not together.
And
And
the
so I think that there's like an entitlement with women. And,
yes,
and it's not talked about that
right,
it's like, no, we're on a date, you need to pay. And if you can't pay, you're a bum. Or he wants to see if he wants to be used or not
yes.
in
And
the relationship.
I do it every time. I do it all the time. Or if I'm dating, if I decide to go out and date, I'm not saying I'm gonna make her pay for the first date. It's not what I'm saying. we're gonna talk, and I'm gonna feel you out. Um, but I think what they're not understanding is if you are or if you do have certain type of character traits, and if you got the right guy, the next 10 dates are on me, or maybe
Correct.
you pay for this,
Correct.
you pay for this. Maybe we're taking a trip now, and you don't have to worry
Correct.
about it.
My husband looked at me sideways because he was like, "What?" Because his previous relationship, there was like a lot of financial, and not to like, I'm not bashing his ex. I think she's a great person. I'm like, oh, I like her. But for him, it was a big trigger sometimes in our relationship because he started paying a lot more for our dates, and he felt some type of way. And I was like, hold on. I was like, if you like feel like you don't want to pay, it's okay to tell me. I got it this time.
Yeah,
And it's good. Like, I think women don't understand that. From a male's perspective, you don't want to be
that's hard.
financially abused,
That's
you
hard.
know? And it's okay. It doesn't mean that you're less of a man, but I think that, like, again, the power imbalance, I think this is me and my husband talk about this all the time. I think when women got our voice, which was needed, right? Because I'm no longer a piece of property, right? I think what's highlighted in men is, oh, you actually have to bring something to the table other than money. I actually have to like you. And a lot of men aren't used to that. They're not used to that. And so men are having a hard time with that. And then men are like, okay, but you're not going to take advantage of me.
Right.
And that comes with like its own set of things. And so I think historically what we're seeing is a dynamic shift and a hard time, like with the genders, like adjusting to those traditional gender roles, and the new shift
Yeah.
of, okay, well, now we both have to work, right?
And
Because now you can come home and I need help in the house because we both work, right? And I
yeah,
actually have to like you because I'm not tied to you financially, so you got to work on yourself for me to like you, right?
actively.
It's tough on both sides because we got to let go of that. Like, and my husband, I'm like, oh, like it was so weird because he's very humble to where he's like, I don't care if you make more money than me. He's like, you're my retirement plan. And he will happily say that. And I'm like, I hate you. But his value is not tied to how much money he can give me. His value is tied to the peace that he can bring to my life and the character that he has in our relationship and the type of father he can be to our kids.
I love it.
That's where his value is tied to,
Yeah.
not to how many trips you can take me on or how many dates can you pay for me. Do I deserve to be lavished and treated? Absolutely. Does he do that? Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
But you are in a time now where the celebrity lifestyle, the celebrity status, the flashiness, like we live in America at least, or like that's normalized. That's why I said I'm here in Thailand, and it's just completely different. It's different.
the values are different, right?
Values
Like, what can you bring to the table? Like, that looks different.
is very, very much different. But yeah, I think hearing more about your story and hearing more about how you operate within your household, it kind of gives me hope, because too, you're an intelligent woman, and then you're able to also understand where I'm coming from, and like I said, when I made the post to begin with, it was all more so about understanding. If you can
Mhm.
read what I'm saying and understand what I'm saying, or not even understand right off the bat, but you have to attempt to understand. And I just believe that we are in that time where there's no longer middle class. So I make sure I'm watching the stock markets. I'm investing. I got some stuff put away, but I'm always watching like what's going on around the world. But in America
Yeah.
specifically, there's no middle class no more. So again, I don't think women who are in these high positions and making this money, and I don't think that they are understanding that they have a lot to do with that, like economic. Like if we being real, if we really sitting back and studying and going over history and looking at where we are now, I said that they purposely do things to divide just healthy families, big families, and they constantly putting out in the music and the media and things like even being single, even what we're
Yeah.
talking about right now, promoting being single. I think it's great to be single, but they're not talking about this side of the singleness. They're not talking about, hey, the ups and the downs, and this is what you need to do. They're just promoting, yeah, you single, go live your life.
Go live your best life. And there's nothing wrong with people that want to be single. Like, and that is my biggest thing. And so to bring out statistics, the Black woman is the most educated woman in America,
And
statistically.
hence
But
why,
in the media, what do we say? What do we look at? The opposite.
I mean, I post, I literally said in male dominated industries, they are promoting, they literally have spaces for Black women specifically. Like,
Yep.
you don't have a job as a Black woman, you don't have a degree as a Black woman. You can enter the tech industry right now and make six figures in your first year.
Correct. No, because but rightfully so, because historically there are laws that talk about, okay, there's been disproportionality in this type of field, so in order to promote the diversity, we need to have these type of people. And you're right. Like, I wouldn't say that they're getting promoted for no reason, but I will say that there are open doors, and people could use the opposite end to be like, oh, they're just promoting minorities and they're taking all our jobs. And I'm like, but it's because historically it's been
Yeah.
discriminated against, and now there's laws in place to be able to like promote that. But you're right, you have to know these things to understand the context of the post,
Uh-huh.
you know and I think people's first reaction is who hurt you, because it triggered something in them. That's a
Exactly.
whole nother topic conversation, you know
But we
but but that's we can talk about that another time, you know what I mean? But so I would like for you, like, maybe end with telling our audience, like, what is a what is the main message that you would like our listeners to get from today, seeking guidance for being successful and single, or whatever it is? What misconception would you like to clear up about being single?
I would say the misconception that I would like to clear up about being single is, for one, that you have to have, a lot of money, or you have to be at a certain place at a certain time. Like, I think being single is that time for you to realize, especially if you just came from a broken up relationship, or if you're just a young person and you just haven't found that person yet. You're in a great position as well. But I think that what you should take from this conversation is take from my experiences and her experiences. Try to avoid them. Try to avoid the experiences that we've been through, and use it as knowledge. Have a routine. Get right with yourself. Be able to look at yourself in the mirror and be able, I don't care what nobody say, talk to yourself. I talk to myself as if I'm talking to God every day. If you look at my show right now, it says her. Her stands for high energy, respected daily. When I created this brand, I was in my room one night, sitting by myself. And I was like, bro, my energy is so low. Like, I'm so depressed and I'm by myself. And I was like, I need some high energy. And I was like, you know what? I got up and I literally created the brand the same day. Just make sure your energy is right. Make sure you got a routine. You'll be all right as a single person. Because what happens is you'll take care of yourself, and unknowingly that person, or whether it's a he or a her for you, they'll come along the way.
I agree 100%. Like, big message, like, singleness does not mean loneliness. Singleness can be an opportunity for you to grow, for you to work on yourself, for you to work on the things that like make you feel sad, that make you feel depressed, that make you, what are those things? Analyze your life and build that community around you, so that when you are down, you have somebody to lean on. When you are down, you're taking advice from people that are mimicking the lifestyle that you want to live.
That's key. That's key right there. And I'm not too sure if we actually went too deep on that, the community part, being around people that can, again, the high energy. It came from me, but I had to wake up and go and be around some people that had high energy as well, that rubbed off on me.
Absolutely.
So now I train Muay Thai now. So I go to the gym and there's a group of guys in there, and they're ex-veterans. Half of them are married, and the other half are Thai. I'm in Facebook groups of other men and women that travel the world just like me. And most of the people in the groups are married, or traveling with their families. And they keep me uplifted. And whenever I have a question or a concern, or hell, when I want to navigating through the world as a single person, it can get a little bit lonely. You know what I'm saying? you're talking about flying from a country to another country and you being in the third world country where there's no internet. Like, yeah, sometimes you are in a bungalow by yourself.